Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt like you said too much? Not from the heart, but from a place of fear? Maybe you found yourself explaining every word, softening every opinion, or apologizing before you even spoke. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you're not alone. And more importantly, this doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've learned to survive by playing small. But surviving is not the same as living. I know what it's like to feel the need to justify every breath you take. To fear that if you speak too boldly or act without permission, someone will misunderstand you, reject you, leave you. So you make yourself smaller. You cushion your truth in soft words. You add disclaimers to everything you say. Maybe it's just me, but sorry, I just thought. I'm not an expert, but I was wondering. And it's not because you lack intelligence or sincerity. No, it's often the most thoughtful, compassionate people who fall into this pattern. You don't want to be arrogant. You don't want to offend. So you explain and explain until your voice is no longer yours. It becomes an echo of everyone else's expectations. But here's what I've learned, not just through books or teaching, but through the broken moments I've walked through myself. Over-explaining is not a sign of clarity. It's a symptom of fear. There's a reason why we do it. Somewhere along the way, we started to believe that we had to earn the right to speak. Maybe you were judged harshly as a child. Maybe someone you loved made you feel like your voice was too much or not enough. So now every sentence comes with a warning label. Every truth is wrapped in apology. Every idea feels like a risk. But let me tell you something I wish someone had told me earlier. You are allowed to speak without defending your right to do so. You are allowed to express your heart without proving that it matters. Silence doesn't mean safety, and disclaimers don't make you more likable. They make you invisible. There is a deeper strength inside you, one that doesn't need to shout, one that doesn't seek permission. And you don't need to create it, you only need to return to it. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about coming home to yourself. The version of you that speaks with calm, with faith, with presence. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you finally believe you belong. There's a reason why confident people don't explain themselves endlessly. It's not arrogance. It's not detachment. It's certainty. A quiet knowing that their worth isn't up for negotiation. And that's something you can reclaim too. You see, when you constantly preface your thoughts with apologies or hesitations, you unintentionally send a message, not just to others, but to your own spirit. The message is, my voice isn't strong enough. My presence must be softened. My truth might be too much. Over time, your own nervous system begins to believe it. Your posture reflects it. Your eyes dim because of it. And slowly, you forget the sound of your own authority. But what if I told you that you never lost it, only buried it? Buried it beneath the fear of being misread, the fear of being too intense, too direct, too real. And maybe no one taught you how to be strong and kind at the same time. Maybe no one ever modeled for you what it looks like to speak with both humility and conviction. But that doesn't mean you can't begin now. The soul doesn't forget how to stand tall. It just needs space to remember. I've seen lives change when people stop asking for permission to be themselves. I've seen men and women broken by rejection, silenced by shame, rise again, simply by rising again, simply by reclaiming their right to speak without apologizing. Not louder, not harsher, just clearer, straighter, more present. Like a tree that no longer bends to every breeze. So, what does that look like in your life? It looks like replacing "sorry, just my opinion" with "this is what I believe." It looks like speaking slower with pauses, not because you're unsure, but because you're centered. It looks like breathing before you answer, not rushing to fill every silence. It looks like trusting that the right people will feel your spirit, even when your words are few. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. You just need to live in it. Because when you stop over-explaining, you begin to let the quiet truth of your presence do the talking. And that, my friend, is how respect is born. Not from force, not from performance, but from presence. Calm, rooted, sacred. You don't need to explain yourself to be understood. You need to be yourself to be seen. Maybe no one told you this, but you were never meant to live in defense mode. Life is not a courtroom, and you are not on trial. Yet, how often do we walk through our days as if we're defending every decision, every word, every breath? We anticipate judgment before it even arrives. We prepare our explanations before anyone asks. We shrink our truth until it fits into someone else's comfort zone. But what if the real healing begins when we stop trying to be understood and start understanding ourselves? There's a power in restraint, not the kind that comes from fear or suppression, but the sacred restraint that flows from deep self-respect. It's the kind of strength that pauses before speaking, not to second-guess, but to honor the weight of one's words. I've learned this in quiet moments, not in applause or acclaim, but in silence. I've seen it in the eyes of those who've suffered deeply and yet speak with a peace that doesn't need to explain itself. Their presence alone carries truth. They don't rush. They don't beg to be heard. And yet, when they do speak, the room listens. That's the energy I want you to feel. Not because you have something to prove, but because you have something to live. You are not insecure. You are sacred. And sacred things are not meant to be defended with noise. They're meant to be carried with dignity. So, when the urge to over-explain rises up in you, pause. Ask yourself, am I trying to clarify, or am I trying to be accepted? That question can change your life. Because clarity needs calm. But the need to be accepted often leads to chaos, to saying too much, too fast, with too little connection to your soul. You don't need to unpack your past in every conversation. You don't need to justify your values to every listener. You don't need to water down your passion so it won't disturb someone else's fears. You need only this, to return to stillness and let your truth rise from there. Stillness does not beg to be noticed. It just is. And in that stillness, you will find the permission you've been searching for, not from others, but from within. This isn't the moment to prove yourself. It's the moment to remember yourself. And in remembering who you are, you will finally stop explaining who you're not. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be present. And presence begins the moment you stop narrating your worth and start embodying it. Not through grand gestures, not through flawless speeches, but through the quiet integrity of showing up, honest, unguarded, and whole. I know how tempting it is to explain your pain away, to feel the need to say, "I'm healing, I'm trying, I'm doing better," just so others won't misinterpret your silence as failure. But healing doesn't need a witness to be real. Your transformation is not a performance. And your softness, your uncertainty, your breath between words, that is not weakness. That is becoming. You don't have to prove that you're working on yourself. Just keep walking. There is a line I've carried with me for years, and I want to pass it on to you now. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. In other words, you do not need to explain away your boundaries, your timing, or your quiet. You do not need to apologize for protecting your peace. And you certainly do not need to shrink yourself to be palatable. God did not create you to be a shadow of your potential. He formed you with intention, and the soul He placed within you is not here to earn its place. It already belongs. So, the next time you're tempted to add a disclaimer to your truth, take a breath instead. Let silence speak for you. Let your eyes hold the weight of your heart. Let your presence be the statement. And if someone misunderstands you, let them. That's not your burden. Your burden is only this: to walk in integrity with your own soul, to say what is real without theater, to move through the world with the calm, sacred weight of someone who has stopped defending and started living. Because real confidence is not loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just is. And so are you. Still, grounded, worthy. Let that be the energy you carry forward. Let that be your quiet revolution. There comes a time in every soul's journey when the search for validation grows quiet. When the endless need to explain, to be seen, to be approved, to be understood, gives way to something deeper, something sacred. That something is peace. Not the peace that comes from everyone liking you, not the peace that comes from never being questioned, but the kind of peace that rises when you stop editing yourself for others and start honoring yourself before God. You are not here to be invisible behind long explanations. You are here to be a presence, a light that doesn't flicker with every passing opinion, a voice that doesn't tremble at the edge of every room, a soul that knows, even if they don't understand me, I will not abandon myself again. You don't need a stage to be radiant. You just need to be real. And real begins when you give yourself permission to speak with calm authority, to say what you mean, simply, directly, with warmth. No apology, no disclaimer, no frantic rush to soften your truth. Yes, some will misunderstand you. Yes, some may walk away. But those who are meant to walk with you will not need an explanation to recognize your spirit. They'll know, because they've been there too, because they've done the same work, because they've fought the same silence. And they'll feel safe in your presence, not because you say everything perfectly, but because your presence says, "You don't have to perform here." That's the gift of healing your insecurity, not just for yourself, but for others. When you stop over-explaining, you give others permission to do the same. When you stop asking for permission to speak, you inspire others to find their voice. Your calm becomes contagious. Your clarity becomes medicine. Your stillness becomes a signal. Come as you are. You are enough. So let this be your commitment. From this day forward, I will speak with presence, not permission. From this day forward, I will honor the strength of saying less and meaning more. From this day forward, I will not explain myself away. Because I am no longer afraid of being misunderstood. I am no longer ashamed of my truth. I am home within myself. And that, dear friend, is enough.